Hello everyone, I'm Professor Nirav Mehta from LJ Institute of Technology, and I will get you with a subject called Automobile Component Design. In this subject, we have came across different types of design, whether it is a general design or it is a machine element. Today, we are going to learn about which kind of manufacturing method we are going to select for our any type of components, whether it could be IC engine component or any type of component. So in this lecture we are going to discuss about selection of manufacturing process. I will take you through this manufacturing process and manufacturing methods and specification of those manufacturing method and how you are going to select those methods. For that, there are manufacturing methods which can be depending upon like chain of events depending on product which start from a surface finish, wall thickness or anything and end with competitiveness in the market. So our manufacturing process should be like very much attractive towards and covering all the criteria, whether it is engineering criteria or design criteria or market criteria. It should fulfill each and every criteria without attaining or without losing its core idea or a core function. So manufacturing process is a very vital selection while designing any component. If your component is not compatible with your manufacturing process, it will not going to reflect main function of your component. So selection of material and processing the material into finished component are closely related to one another. So you should be knowing about the selection of material and then to finish into some good product, or you can say product design, that is very much important to our topic. So what kind of manufacturing process are available for our components and how you are going to select those manufacturing processes. So here we have two main manufacturing processes. One is core process and another is auxiliary process. Core process are the process which will going to determine most of the function of your component, and auxiliary processes are going to determine overall, or you can say perception. They are secondary processes. They are going to complement to your component. These core processes are mainly depending upon are phenomenon, or you can say main function of your component, and auxiliary processes provide supplement to that. Like let's take an example. Here here we have example of engine block which is came to remanufacturing, or you can say it could be in modification mode. So first of all, we are going to strip or we are going to dismantle each and every component from our IC engine block, then wash it to everything and wash it each and every like any oil or any kind of mud or any kind of foreign particles from that, and then we will going to inspect it. Like before getting into any kind of a process or any kind of modification, we have to inspect whether it is problematic or not, whether it has developed any kind of flaws, any kind of problems or anything. Then we will move on to welding. Then after getting into welding, because welding is a process which creates stress in the components and surrounded area. So after welding, we have to provide a stress relieving process, and after that stress relieving process we have to inspect it to once again to assuring that all the stress is got relieved. After that inspection, we perform machining to remove that excessive particle of a welding, and after that removing excessive particle, we will perform a process called honing and deburring, which provides smooth surface inside our cylinder. and ultimately after this honing we will test it for alignment, whether it is aligned to its own axis or not. If it is not aligned to its own axis, it will create unbalanced forces. So after that alignment, we will get into the main bearing and cap machining. Then we will perform surface grinding and ultimately a final washing. Here the surface grinding is auxiliary process, and honing, or you can say welding, that kind of processes are also called as an auxiliary process, and ultimately we will take it to dispatch. Here it is only a modification of your engine rather than developing, or you can say remanufacture, or you can say manufacturing your engine block from the scratch. So first of all, we will discuss about casting process, which is one of the core process. So what is casting? So in this process, molten metals such as a cast iron, copper, aluminium, or any types of metal will pour into molds, which is pre-molds, which is shaped, which we have required, and getting to solidify to get that shape. Like in automobile, we have housing of gearbox, flywheel with rim and sprocket. All the components are to be cast. Casting process provides another type of fundamentals. Okay, it can provide you a different types of component with which has a light weight. Okay, so the casting is a very much low cost process. It is also a process which can provide you a lightweight component which creates minimum inertia. Second process, which is deformation process, which is also called as a forging process. This process In this process, metal, either hot or cold, is deformed into some desired shape. Okay, so this process will provide our desired shape by forging it, or you can say deforming it in some kind of a shape. While deforming this kind of shape, we will provide its strength, which is called strain hardening. Strain hardening is processed by adding up a strength to the component by providing this kind of a deformation in that. Okay, so ultimately our component will be more stronger than casting process. It is a process which provide more strong component compared to casting process, but it has a disadvantage over the casting process, which can't be, it cannot be produced a component which has a very much smaller, or you can say smaller diameter or a dimensions. Component like connecting rod, crankshaft, section beams, or card body or spring, which can be manufactured by this process. Here you can see a component which is connecting rod, which is forged, which is also called hot forging process in a press. So in this animation, you can see how this forging process takes place. After that, one of the auxiliary process which is often used in our companies, or you can say production companies, which is machining process. Machining process which facilitate us to remove excessive material from our component, which is manufactured by our two core processes, whether it is casting process or whether it is forging process. So all the components should have to pass through this process. This process provides surface finish and final shape to our component. In this process, we have different types of cutting tools and different types of machines, like grinding machine, like lathe machine, like CNC machine. On those machine, we perform different operation depending on our requirement, like turning process, milling process, drilling process, shaping, planning, etc. Here I have put a video for our information how this machining process takes place. In this machining process, we are manufacturing a piston with the help of turning process. In that, excessive material is removed from our face of our piston. After one another auxiliary process, which is called joining process. This is also called a building process. It provides it is applicable when our component is very complex, say. So we have to combine them one by another with the help of different types of joining process. There are two types of joining process. One is permanent joint and another is temporary joint. In permanent joint we have welding process, and in temporary joint we have nut or screw bolting joints. Okay, there are joining process like bolting, welding, and riveting. They are essential for assembly of the products. Here we can see electric welding machine, which is which is used for our car body workshop, which is provided by AC power supply, and which weld our metal sheet by fusing them together. So how this manufacturing process is selected by optimum consideration. How you are going to select a manufacturing process? Let's consider my component is connecting rod. Then I have two options, whether I have to go for casting or whether I have to go for a forging. But to select that process, I should know what kind of condition it will going under working. So by knowing this working condition, I should know are forces acting on that connecting rod, and this forces will going to determine optimum selection of our manufacturing process. So it could be like this: you should have material of the component, you should know what kind of a cost or what kind of a manufacturing process is there, so it will determine the cost of your component, as well as geometry and the shape of the component. At the same time, we should know about what kind of surface finish we require, what kind of tolerance ratio we should require, and ultimately what amount of production we require. If it is a unique kind of component, then production rate should be lower, and if it is market or you can say commercial component, that it should be a higher production, it should have a higher production rate. So here we have discussed different aspect of selection of manufacturing process. Reference for this topic is from two books called Machine Design by R.S. Kurmi and Design of Machine Element by V.V. Bhandari. So thank you so much for being with me. We will have another discussion in another topic in another video. Goodbye for that. Have a good day. Bye.